Well, good evening, folks, and welcome to the Got Ghosts Will Travel Show. I'm Linda Masanagio, your host for tonight, and as the title of the show says, we are discussing ghosts, paranormal, all the unexplained things that happen that go bump in the night, especially when we are on the traveling show. And tonight we'll be talking ghosts about in a world-famous Western historical landmark, the Pioneer Saloon in Goodsprings, Nevada. And let me tell you before we start a little bit of background about the saloon. It's the world-famous Pioneer Saloon, which is located about 30 minutes from Las Vegas in Goodsprings, Nevada, and has a long history with the booming of mining during the early 1900s through the depressive prohibition era until now, as it's a fully functioning saloon and cafe. It was originally built in 1913 by George Fayle, a successful and wealthy businessman who also owned the local Fayle department store, the Fayle Hotel, which was built in 1916, and numerous other properties in Goodsprings. Over the years, ownership has changed hands several times. At least 5 different proprietors have taken on the task of continuing George's saloon since his death in 1918 of the flu epidemic. But in the current times right now, the proprietor caretaker is named Noel Sheckells, and he has believed he was meant to be here, not only to own the saloon property, but also live in Goodsprings as well. He once told me before he purchased the property, the thought of moving to Goodsprings to live never ever crossed his mind. He said this was probably the last place he would think to move. But he said, he also told me this place does change your whole outlook on life in general, not only to himself, but to many others who walk through the entrance of the saloon and of the town itself. And of course, many are still with us in spirit, roaming the floors of the saloon they all loved and now call home, what we call ghosts or spirits. So for myself, though, I met Noel during one of his first haunted lockdown events, which is basically you get, in quotes, locked in to the saloon at night after closing hours. They turn the lights off, and you conduct a paranormal investigation, as you've seen on the TV show Ghost Adventures. I never have done a physical investigation before this, but I really wanted to see what it's like for myself, so I decided to go on this event. I did not know what to expect or anything. I was just kind of open-minded. I want to see what's happening. So this is when we met. But towards the end of the event, while we were sitting on the bar, the wooden bar, and I was sitting there talking to another guest about a very interesting conversation about psychics and ghosts and why they communicate. And Noel was standing behind the bar listening to us. And then suddenly I started hearing what sounded like Indian drumming music, like story from Native Americans, and it sounded like male voices singing in native tongue or native language. I looked around, the whole room, the little saloon area, and all the other people, but I noticed no one was reacting to this. And no one was saying, looking, what's that, or anything like that. They were just doing their own thing, little section investigations they went off to do on their own. So I was the only one hearing this. So I started telling them, I asked Noel, hey, do you hear that music or that drumming? It sounds like Indians. And then I said, is there an Indian reservation nearby or something like this? And then he said, no, hasn't been here in a long time, the Indians reservation or the Native Americans. But he also added, that's more likely that I'm hearing something because the property was sitting on Native American land. The entire area in the Goodsprings used to be settled by Native American Indians. The Paiutes and I think Shoshone were the prominent Indians back then in the from like mid-1800s all the way back. So he says, very likely you are hearing Indian music, but he says not from the living. So we automatically assume that this is Indian spirits. And for a strange reason, I was the one hearing this. I don't know, because maybe I'm half American Indian or exactly why, but Noel thought that was pretty cool. And after we started talking a little bit more, he invited me to come along on all the events, to take pictures or just to be there, because he thought, well, there's the reason why I'm hearing this. The ghosts or spirits must really want me to come back. So that's how I actually started my relationship with the Pioneer Saloon and with Noel Sheckells as the proprietor. And eventually I became on their team, the paranormal investigative team, the Pioneer Saloon investigators. And I've been there since, about 3 years now. The Goodsprings area, was also a one-stop rest stop along the old Spanish trails, which took travelers from Santa Fe to California and back. And because there was water there was like a natural spring water running right behind the saloon area. Before Hoover Dam and all that built up, there was all natural, and it was like above ground. It was like a little stream or river. And this is why people would stop here to refresh the horses, to get more water and supplies or whatever, and then it would take off. So this whole area is very active with people, travelers, and many Spaniards a long time ago who also travel this roads onto the West Coast. So, and let's see, I want to talk about facts about the saloon. The bar was built in Brunswick, Maine, and was originally a saloon in Rhyolite, Nevada. When the town in Rhyolite, the mining boom went bust, someone, possibly maybe George himself, went to Rhyolite and purchased the bar. He had it transferred by rail to the small town of Jean, about 7 miles down the road from Goodsprings, and later installed it into the bar. So the actual wooden bar, it has lots of history itself. It traveled from Rhyolite, and before that, they're not sure where it was before that, but it was made in Brunswick, Maine, in the mid-1800s, maybe 1860s, and it ended up in Rhyolite. And then when that place went bust, it ended up in the saloon in the Pioneer Saloon. If you believe in attachments or spirits going along with items, very possibly, because this is another mining town that it came from, that maybe that's where all the activity, some of it anyway, is being generated, this massive wooden cherry wood bar in the saloon. And of course, if you go to the bar saloon itself, Pioneer Saloon, you'll notice the interior walls and ceilings are made of pressed tin. And these are all original building materials that was there since 1913. And another odd thing is, or I don't know, maybe not so odd, is that they were ordered through a Sears and Roebuck catalog. They came in as like a kit, I guess, or they came in all together and they put them up from the Sears and Roebuck catalog back there in 1913. So, but this is what we're going to be talking about tonight. The episode is the Pioneer Saloon in Goodsprings and the hauntings, the ghost stories, the experiences, and all that for my experiences, and my special co-host for tonight, my brother, Dennis Masa Nemtiwa, the other half of L&D Paranormal Seekers, and co-founder. We started our team in 2014, I almost said 1914, but 2014 officially. And we're going to talk about different things that happened to us and to other people during the lockdowns and what have you. And, of course, I'm going to open the line, or you can call in, as this show is, towards like maybe 30 minutes. This is a 1-hour show. I made this 1 hour for the Pioneer Saloon. So you can call in maybe the last 30 minutes or so, or whenever, and I'll just answer your calls if you have any questions. So here is Dennis, my brother. Welcome to the show, Dennis.
How are you? Very good. What's going on?
Hey, nothing right now. I'm just talking about the ghosts at the haunted Pioneer Saloon and how I started there and all that. So I was going to actually just, we were just going to talk about it when we happened to us, because we've been in there investigating ourselves.
Well, I remember the first time you took me over there. I went over there with Linda, and we were looking in the memorial room, it's called. It's a little room with the dining set up and the pictures in there. And I walked around the room and looking at the pictures, and I happened to get in one corner. And all of a sudden in that one corner, my head just felt like some kind of pressure was on it, and it just kept on. The pressure get heavier and heavier, and I just stood there because I wanted to see how much I could take of it, or if it was just something like a headache or something, it would go away, but it didn't. It just kept on, and I just had to move. So I walked away at about 2 or 3 steps, and all of a sudden it just disappeared. And that's when I first knew something's there. And I spoke to Linda, and I told her, I said, something's over there. My head is, and she went over there. She didn't feel nothing herself, but it was. I'm a stranger. She was there more than I am, so this is the first time I was there. So something was testing me or something.
Yeah, and then I even did when we were doing that at a time. I said, well, let me see. I didn't feel a whole lot, but a time before that, I did feel something odd in that corner that you're talking about. It's like a vibration of some kind.
And I remember you telling me that also Noel said he knows something's going on in that corner. And there was a psychic that came by also later on, a few years later, that said she felt something there too. Is that right?
Yes. She would walk in there, and without telling her anything about people's experiences, she would have gone, hey, something happened right here. I can feel it right in this area, this corner, maybe something violent or something like a murder, or she wasn't sure, but it had something to do with that corner. And that's when we'd have to tell her that, that we all feel something, not all the time, but, certain times you've got like a vibration there. But there's nothing under the floor. I asked Noel, there's a motor or something causing the vibration to happen, or electronics. He goes, no, there's absolutely nothing in there. It's just, floor. So it's kind of odd.
Yeah, that was my first time. And then later on, we started investigating. Noel let us investigate by ourselves. Normally, he won't let anybody do that, but he let Linda and I go in there 2 or 3 times, different times of the year. And I think it was the first one we went to. We investigated late at night until 2 or 3 in the morning, and we had first I bring over. Was that the night I bring some cards over? Was it?
Oh yeah, you brought some cards because the bar was still open. We got there a little early. We wanted to set up. It was before closing at 9 because it was a weekday. They closed at 9. And I think, I'm not sure who it was there. It was a girl, I think. I'm not sure, but it was a bartender. She was trying to, or it was the guy that was trying to close it down. And while we're waiting, we're in a memorial room playing cards. We were just practicing to getting ready. And I remember we were just fooling around with these deck of cards, and we did like a cold deal, like just put 5 for Paul, 5 for you, and then just flip them over to see who wins, just without, getting new cards. So we did that, and Paul actually won that game. Remember, he had a full house, and you had 3 of a kind or something?
Tell them who Paul is.
Oh, yeah, Paul is Paul Kosski. He's a 28-year-old miner who was actually shot and killed in the saloon. He was caught cheating. He had a card slider up his sleeve, and because he was winning so many times, and then suddenly another ace fell out of his sleeve. So now there's 5 aces on the card table, and that's why automatically they knew he was cheating. So there was a little scuffle because he wanted to take his money, and other people got mad, and obviously because he's stealing the money, sort of, cheating. One of the other guys who were on the table, his name is Joe Armstrong, and I've been told that was supposed to be a friend of his. Sitting across from him, he was a small man. He was like my size, maybe 5 feet, maybe a little taller. Paul Kosski is at least 6'2", 6'3", around there, and obviously the little guy is going to have a disadvantage. So he carried a gun around, and because of the scuffle, he pulled his gun and shot Paul 3 times. 2 went in the chest, and 1 he went into the wall. And then he just he died instantly. He was shot in the chest and heart area, so he just laid on the floor for 10 hours before the coroner came from Pioche, and he came to do an investigation. And he found the card slider. He told everybody, "You're okay. You're exonerated, or you're let free. Just go and bury him somewhere in the cemetery." So all the guys who were there, they picked him up and buried his body in the Goodsprings cemetery, but in an unmarked grave. So we have no idea where his body's at. But that's who Paul is. So when we do investigations, even during the haunted lockdowns or anything, we always break out a deck of cards, and we try and play poker. And we include Paul. We always tell him to come in and join us if you want, and stuff. And that's what we were doing before we started our own private investigation. We were just fooling around with a deck of cards. So that was going on. He won again. He had a full house, and my brother, I think, had like 3 of a kind or something.
And I think this must have been their first time since they passed away, because they were pretty anxious. I was shuffling the cards as we finally got started. I just kept shuffling and shuffling, and I was talking to Linda, shuffling. Next thing you know, she had her spirit box running, and of course you could see the recorder going also by this time. And I was shuffling. All of a sudden, over the spirit box, you hear, "Show the cards." And I'm like, I did it again. And then you heard at first it was a girl's voice, then you heard a man, "Do the cards." I said, okay. That's when I started playing and started doing the cards, but that was kind of strange. You didn't hear that again after that.
So yeah, because you started dealing, we started playing the game of cards and stuff.
Yeah.
So, but it was kind of funny, actually.
Yeah, then we played it for a while. Then I think they got tired, and so then I picked up on the showing the cards and said, "What number is this? What number is this?" And then you hear them calling out the card number, or whatever number I'm holding. It could be a 7, or you hear 7, you hear 8, or 9, or it just kept going. We just kept going for that for a while, but that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, and I think because they're human spirits, I think they kind of got bored with this game after a while, because then pretty soon they stop responding a little bit, or they would give us the wrong answer. When you're asking what card is it, they would give you the wrong.
Uh-huh.
So we
on to other things.
Yeah, it says, "Oh, okay, let's go into something," and then eventually we moved to the other side where the saloon is. We started in the memorial room, the Lombard Gable Memorial Room, and then we moved over to the saloon area. I did another EVP session in there. And one night we had another spirit that is a resident. His name was Mr. Butterfield. He was a popular bartender at the time, maybe in the 1930s or 40s, but we're not really exact sure. I'm not even sure if that's his real name. It could be like a nickname everybody gives him. But his thing was, one day he was in the bar working, and he poured everybody around a whiskey, free shots for everybody, because he was feeling good or very generous, and he would tell a daily joke. So he told all the patrons, "You want to hear a joke?" He never said, "Yeah, tell us." And he says, "Have you heard the one about the bartender who shot himself?" And everybody's kind of like, "What? That's not really a joke, but yeah, go ahead and tell it." And then he pulls out a gun. I'm guessing it's a 6-shooter or revolver or something. And he puts it to his head and shoots himself right in the bar as he's standing behind the bar, in front of everyone. And apparently Noel has told me that he died with a smile on his face from the witnesses. So he really wanted not to leave this bar. He was this is his bar too, so he's not leaving. And apparently he's still there. Because when we were doing one of our investigations, remember that one night when we were trying to think of questions? Yeah, the EVP that we caught.
Yeah. Oh, I was asking it. about the sarsaparilla and the milk.
Oh yeah.
I asked him if he had any sarsaparilla, and he says, "What's that?" You heard him say, "What's that?" So I asked him for some milk, and he said, "Go find it."
Yeah,
so,
but it was more like, "Go find it," you know. So
yeah.
I'm
that night
thinking
also,
that. Yeah.
No, that was a different night. I'm thinking of a different night. There's so many times we went with everything. There's so many things that happened there. About the jukebox with you.
Oh yeah. One night we were in there. I'm not sure which night it was, but I was sitting there on my phone, checking something on my phone, and then they have a jukebox. It's one of those digital electronic kind. We're sitting in the corner, and right in front of me, I heard the grinding noise, like it was coming on. It was turning itself on. So I looked at it, like, what? And because it was off all night. It was like around, I don't know, 1:30, 2 o'clock. It was off since like 9 o'clock or 10. It never came on. It almost just turned itself on and started coming on. I don't think it played any music.
You were
but
you were yelling for me because I was on the other side of the room. I could hear you.
Yeah, I know. Hey, come here, look. Hey, you hear that? Like, you come running around the corner. What?
It was on. Like, what? You turned it on.
Yeah.
Nobody there. It just turned on by.
I guess it wanted our attention or something.
I think it happened with one of the lockdowns, didn't it? With Jill, when Jill was there.
Actually, it's happened several times. Not every time. It's just certain nights. It's like one night we had a young man and his parents. They were there, and it was the young man's birthday. And we were telling about the previous times, the jukebox and stuff, and then he was like, "Oh, I wish I could hear that. You know, I like country music. Can you play some country music?" Early into lockdown. So we continued lockdown. Nothing happened. And then we came to the other side, the bar side. We were just standing there talking right before it was supposed to be finished. And suddenly the jukebox turned itself on. It started grinding noise, and it came on. And the first thing I think was on was a country song. It was like, I forgot who it was, Trace Atkins or something. And they were like, "Oh, it's on," and it's country. So
wow.
So we were thinking maybe they were saying happy birthday to him or something. Maybe they liked him. So that was pretty.
That one night was, I think it was like 1 or 1:30 in the morning, and the phone kept ringing and ringing. I said, "Who could?"
Oh yeah.
Should we answer? I go, "No." I said, "Nobody knows this place closes by midnight." I said, "Who's calling that late at night?" And Linda checked her EVPs later on the next day or so, and she found somebody, a spirit in there, and answer the phone, right?
Oh yeah, it was saying, I think it was a woman. It was saying, "Answer the phone," or answer something that really faint in the background. Answer the phone. But there was nobody there except me and Dennis, and we're not saying that, And but that night was really active by the living, I guess. Like the phone kept ringing. It was really strange. It just kept ringing and it shut off. I mean, so many times. I mean, it was way past closing, and nobody should be calling. So we're not supposed to answer it because I don't work there. And then later on, there's 2 guys on motorcycles that came by. I think they were just wondering if they're still open. They're curious and stuff. Remember, they were looking inside the windows, and we were in the dark, and we were joking around that maybe we could scare them by going to the window and putting our face up there. Maybe they think we're a ghost or something. And then all of a sudden and then the spirit box just stopped. So it just it was like the talking.
The ghosts too, because they got quiet. It was all of a sudden they just got
quiet. I know, even the ghosts get scared of the living.
Yeah. And we waited till they left, and started up again.
Yeah.
I think that was the night. Is that the night I had the imager?
It might be one night. Because he bought a flare camera, a thermal imaging camera, so we came over there to try it out. So, and we had a few things happen with that too, the camera.
Yeah. One of them was that somebody was playing with it. They kept turning it off and on.
Yeah.
I thought, what? I just got this. So, went off. I found out later we caught on camera a shadow right where I was standing, and you could see the shadow coming toward me, and I had reached out there toward it, and it came, and then it went toward the light. There was a light on the other side of the room that was on it, and it just like dissipated, and as it went toward the light. And then it did it. It came from behind me, from where I was at, and then went out again. A few minutes, seconds later. About a minute
Yeah,
later,
and then that's when actually your flare camera went off.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
that second time when we saw it, I think it was near it was touching your camera and it just took off. They probably thought that was funny because your reaction was like, oh.
That's on camera, and Linda had put it all together and put it out, and she sent it to me. And later, I was had it on my Kindle, and I plugged it in my ears to listen to it a little closer, and she didn't notice it. Then I noticed it though, that as the shadow was coming toward me, you could hear like a little child's voice or woman. Can you see me? I think it thought I could see. Can you see me? And then that's when it turned and went the other direction. That's
yeah,
when
the shadow figure.
Yeah.
And then as it was going away, it was like, "Can you see me?" Like that. But it was weird because I didn't hear it at first. I heard it sounded like a motor coming on, like a refrigerator motor or something, like an electronic grinding sound.
Yeah.
But then you listen to it, and when I slowed it down, and that's when he was texting me and saying, listen to it again. He's hearing a voice now, right where that electronic sound was, because we couldn't figure out where that sound was coming from originally. I thought it was maybe one of the refrigerators coming on, the motors, but it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't. It was actually sounded like more like a voice if you listen to it and stuff. So, no, that was pretty odd.
Yeah,
in there.
And then the other thing was that really was. It didn't scare us, but because I'm not really scared of the ghosts or nothing. But we sat down there was a benches inside there that they had, and we were sitting at the bench. I was facing one direction, she was facing the other direction. We were facing each other, and it was using the imager all night. So I also had my camera, but it's one of those cheaper ones. It had has a flash to it, and so I decided, well, I'm taking pictures. I haven't used it all night. So I turned around real quick and just hit the camera, and the flash went off. And as soon as the flash went off, all of a sudden with our ears, you could hear it real loud, which I think I frightened. I mean, I scared the ghost. I caught him off guard, but you could hear it real loud. And we just looked at each other and then started laughing. And we started laughing. Oh, we're sorry, and we didn't mean to do it.
Yeah. I think the flash caught him because he wasn't expecting probably to see you turn around like that. Because he was taking pictures towards me, then he decided to turn around and take a picture behind him, and with the flash on, and that's when you hear actually you can hear with our ears because they had a spirit box on, but it was so loud. I thought both of us thought it was in the room. It was like, wow, that was loud. It was like, whoa, he's like, God, and I think he just kind of startled him.
Yeah, it was loud. It was like somebody right there, and that's why after you hear things like that and see things like that, then you start, you believe, and you there's something there. So, like they say, you have to see it to believe it. There's a lot of people out there that don't believe that there's spirits out there, but there is. And
yeah, I mean, like.
Oh,
like yourself, you told me a long time ago when you were living in the other house, the one that you said now you think it's haunted, but at the time you never really thought it was because you were experiencing it, but you really just thought it was something else.
Right.
I mean, a long time ago. But
I never would. That was before the Ghost Hunters was on and the ghost shows and things like that, and it's just like, oh, maybe I forgot to do this or I forgot that, or a lot of little things happen till the end.
Till the end, yeah.
But and then you start. Then when all of a sudden the shows came out, and that's what got me thinking. Oh, maybe that's something was going on there after all.
Like the cold spots and.
Yeah, the cold spots and things, everything like that. It's like when you watch those shows, then you realize something would have been happening there.
Yeah.
So
I have one question for you. since you lived in that house, do you believe that any of those spirits have followed you to now, like to now time? Like when you go someplace, do you think one of those ghost spirits are still with you from the house?
No, I think though after in the end that there was one big bad one that was it was kind of like a dream. I just kept on. I was asleep at the time, and when I saw this shadow figure heading toward me, and it started to like it's gonna choke me. And all of a sudden, I woke up, and when I woke up, my hands were around my neck. And that was just before I moved out of there, because I was living by the airport at that time, and the airport bought all those houses out, so we had to leave. And that's when I think when I moved to my new place, that it followed me there, and it stayed with me for like about 2 years until they finally demolished all the houses down, and that's when it disappeared from my. I don't see it in the dreams anymore, because I had these dreams that were about the house. It always kept going back to that house, and it would look like I was there, like it was real. It was always dark in there, and all the time, and spooky, and after they demolished the houses, it's finally that last dream I had. It all of a sudden the house was bright. You see everything like bright lights were in there, and you could. And then I never had a dream again after that about it.
Oh, about your old house?
Yeah.
Okay. So
but
this was
after
kind of
like 2 years, about 2 years.
Oh yeah, the bad dreams.
They didn't bulldoze it right away. They didn't bulldoze the houses right away when the people moved out. It took them a couple of years to get everybody out, and finally they demolished that whole place. Because there's a cemetery right down the street from where I live, so I'm thinking it came from there. Probably
it's like a trail or something where the ghosts ever walk through or something, going to wherever they're going.
Right.
So going to the Pioneer, though, do you believe that anything has followed you home from there? I mean, I don't have any issues with it. I've been going there 3 years now.
Yeah, I've been there since we went there, and also before, after today. I've been going there, and I still nothing's following me from there.
Yeah, even though you were told to just tell them to stay there. Don't follow us home. You're not given permission. You stay where you're at. We'll come to you. Whatever. To communicate and stuff. And
I always tell that too. That wherever I go to investigate, make sure before I leave, don't follow. This is your house. You stay here and don't follow us.
Yeah.
So far, it's so good. It works.
Yeah, except for the one time, remember we went to the park that very first time, and you didn't do it.
Yeah, a long time ago.
That was when we first started.
Probably before we were just starting, and I didn't really say anything back then. And I went to a park. We were investigating one of the parks.
I think it was Green Valley Parkway, because that was the first one we went to.
Yeah,
in Henderson.
Oh, was it Henderson? Henderson,
yeah.
And I think 2 boys died there.
I think it was brothers or something. It was a child. It was a little boy or something, a young boy. And since that was your first time actually going to any place like a park to investigate, so I guess because you didn't think that it would work, like telling them to stay there and don't follow you. You went home and you had someone follow you.
I wasn't at that time. Wasn't saying it. I don't think so. Yeah, they followed me. Yeah, I went. It didn't stay long. About probably like one night, and then left. I think it was that night or the next night, maybe 2 nights. When I went to bed, and that sometime early in the morning, all of a sudden they like pulled my covers off or cover down, and that was it. Then it never happened again after that. So they probably.
Oh, okay. Yeah, probably. He's saying, well, nothing here. Maybe because you didn't react to it. Maybe that's why.
Well, I didn't. Yeah, I didn't react like, oh no, what's that?
You get a freak out.
That's one thing you gotta do. Yeah, one thing to keep them away is don't react like that, because the more you act fearful, the more they like it. They'll stick around.
Yeah, because
So
they're actually
everything.
getting a reaction, so they're like, hey, this is pretty cool. Let's
Oh yeah,
keep
they
it
want
up.
to stay longer.
Get more reaction from this person, good
Yeah,
or bad or whatever. I guess it's the same to
that's
them.
why
It's all energy.
yeah, because they're just like people. I always say, just like you and me, like just that we can't see them. It's like when Linda and I go investigate, we don't provoke. We never were the type to provoke. We just go in there, we ask questions, and what's going on, how you like this place, or whatever you want to ask it, just like as a person. It depends on where we're at, what kind of question we ask it. But we don't provoke it to try to come out and make yourself know.
Like they do on some popular TV shows, they kind of go that direction. If nothing's going on, they'll start yelling and screaming.
Yeah.
I mean, they all pretty much do it. I mean, to some degree. I've watched many ghost shows. And they all do it to some degree when there's nothing going on. But I don't, in real life, we don't.
You heard also they get followed home too. That's you end up getting. That's when they follow you home. They don't like it. They get mad. They'll tag along with you.
Yeah, just to show you who you're dealing with. Yeah. It's not all good out there.
Yeah, you could get a bad one and it'd be worse. So just better not just to, you can go out and still investigate and have fun and not provoke, and we still get a lot of things happening for not provoking. We've come around a lot of stuff, right?
Yeah, like a lot of EVPs, like the stuff on the video, like those shadow figures and some other stuff, like actual personal experience for us. Like in the saloon, the very first time I went out there, actually it was the third time I was on the lockdown, and it was me, Noel, and 2 other guests, and I was already pretty much kind of helping him out then. I was just standing there, and he was talking, and suddenly I could hear people talking, and I can understand what they're saying, but I couldn't react to it. It was the weirdest thing. That was in the women's bathroom, in that haunted bathroom. So, and I got really quiet, I guess, and I was leaning against one of the inside door, the one right in front of the little toilet, and I was just leaning there, and we can't see nothing because we're in dark, and all of a sudden Noel kind of noticed I got really quiet. I wasn't saying anything, so he was asking me a question, and I couldn't answer. It was like I couldn't talk. I could hear him, but my reaction time was like nothing. I was like half awake or something. I don't know what's going on. And he kept saying, Linda, you okay? He goes, and I couldn't answer. And then finally, he made a joke. I forgot what it was, but it made everybody go, ha ha, like a chuckle. And all of a sudden, it went away really quickly, kind of. I went, oh, yeah, I'm okay, yeah. And I don't know what's going on. I just kind of half out or something. He goes, oh, yeah, then I think it's time for you to get out. I think you've had enough in here. It's getting to you, He goes, I've seen it, so many times with other people, especially if you're sensitive or something like that, and then they kind of go out like that. They get real quiet. But I told him, no, it's okay. I'm okay. I'll just stand here. He goes, yeah, you okay? And so, yeah. So we continued, and then I noticed it felt like something on my ear. It was touching like a bug or something, but it wasn't. So I was kind of brushing it off, and I looked, and I saw like a little, with my eyes, a little dim little light kind of flickering, and it went from around the time of my ear, and it went up towards the ceiling and went out, and I turned around, and I was like, did you see that? I was like, there was something, a little ball of light or something. Then Noel kind of looked at me funny. He kind of laughed, kind of smiled. Yeah, I believe it. It's probably some spirit trying to get to you, and he kind of got out. Cause,
Yeah,
so I'm thinking,
I remember when we were there that one night. We were by ourselves, and I was getting poked on the side. But, at the time I didn't tell you nothing. I didn't say nothing, but we talked about it later on, and she was mentioning it. I just told I got poked on the side.
Yeah, that's another common experience people have in the saloon during the lockdown and all that. Not everyone, but certain people, especially guys, the males that come on, I've noticed they get poked in the side. I don't know who was poking them. It's like a finger or something. But one night we had a guy in there, and he was a real tough guy. He had like a mohawk, and he was acting kind of tough. But even though he had some bad experiences, he says, that's why I don't get scared. Like, blah, blah, I don't get scared. So he was sitting there.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
all talking, and he was sitting where the old benches were. That one night we were sitting, and
Oh,
he
yeah.
was sitting there, and then all of a sudden he yells, and he goes, ah! And he jumps up from a sitting position. It was like an Olympic jumping competition thing. He went, wow, and then he turned around. He was like holding his back, and something just poked me in the back. And it was like, he was like turning around, and obviously nobody there. But it's kind of funny, it's kind of funny at the time because he was such a tough guy. But
yeah,
it was kind of, but they get poked and stuff, and then they go, oh, but obviously we can't record it because we didn't have video or anything going. So it's just like another personal experience that somebody has. So, they can't really show it to people, because it just was for him, I guess. Just his, because he was acting so tough. And say, I'll show you who tough is. Nah, see how tough you are. And then, but that was pretty funny. I thought it is now, but maybe at the time for him was scary.
I remember there one time we were there. We were both there. And then I was recording a little short lockdown they had after a social event with Rick.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he's talking about Rick McCullum. He's a stunt actor, writer. He's a co-founder of Hollywood Ghost Hunters, another team in Hollywood, obviously. And he came out as a special guest one night. And he had an interesting night himself. That first night, the one you were talking about and stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, he was. He came in, and I don't know if they didn't like him or what, but he just all of a sudden started getting really cold and feeling funny, and he had to leave the room. The lady was sitting behind him. You could hear her say, "Oh, I could feel the cold coming from him." He was so cold, and he left the room for a good 10 minutes. I don't know, before he finally came back, and he came back and decided he got to go home. He guess he had enough. Told the ghost.
From the ghost?
I told the ghost, they're trying to kill me. They're trying to kill me.
I know he was kind of half joking there. You big meanies. But, I think, but later on we kind of thought about it. Maybe it was all the ladies. We called them ladies of the time in there just to respect them. But, the ladies who were there a long time ago, but they're back in spirit. And we're all kind of thinking maybe they just kind of pummeled him because he was a new guy. He's a big guy. He's tall. He's a stunt actor. And so they kind of like, ooh, who's this guy? And they all came towards him. Plus, he's really into the ghost hunting thing, and he's really open to it. He's open to experiencing anything haunted. He wanted something to happen, prove to him that the saloon is haunted. So that's why they went, oh, right, no, this new guy. So they all came to him, I think, and they kind of drained his energy, and it made him sick.
And like me when I went there, only they didn't do they made that pressure on my head because I was new to that place too at that time. Kind of the same thing, but different. He got a different effect than I did. Yeah.
So, but he did come back, and the second time nothing much happened. So, not like that.
Yeah.
But that was an odd night. And of course, the one who was with the Scott, he's skeptical, and of course, nothing really happened to him. So they kind of left him alone. They said, "Well, we have better fun with Rick."
Get into it though near the end though, and he was more like asking a lot of questions, and asking spirits
to prove it to him.
He kind of changed after. I think he had a little story about himself or something.
Oh yeah, because I was telling him about my shadow figure attacked me in the house a long time ago in 2009, I think 2008, something like that. And then that kind of brought him out to tell me about his experience, what happened to him. And he said that was the only time that he can explain what happened to him. Other things he can explain, according to him, but the one thing that kind of attacked him, it didn't really attack him, it just sort of went through him, and he said it was like a shadow figure. And then he didn't say nothing about it until I started telling about what happened to me. And then all of a sudden he said, oh, yeah, that sounds like what happened to me, a long time ago. I said, oh, yeah, could be. Shadows. But, shadow figures are not all bad. It's just a different form of energy to me. even if it comes in a white mist, it can still be bad. I mean, a negative thing. It's just in a white, like a thing, mist or whatever, ectoplasm or whatever they call it. So.
Well, you wrote a few books. Didn't you write a few books? And I think you have in your books about the Pioneer Saloon in there. And I think on one of them was in your first book. You had you were taking pictures out there when you first got there and caught a apparition.
Oh yeah, that was the very first time that I was at the Pioneer Saloon. I went with a friend, Janet Renzetti. She's part of the a paranormal team from Canada, Red Deer Paranormal Society, I think. She's the one who had the idea to go out there. She said, well, let's go do this together since I'm in town she was in town for a wedding. She said, I'm only here for the weekend, so let's go. I said, okay, well, I've never done this before. Well, let's see what it's like. So we went out there, and then we did it's a different tour. It's a Goodsprings ghost hunt tour, which is the first ones that I did out there. And it didn't stay in the saloon. We met in the saloon. We had some pizza and all that, and then we went to the town. It was a town tour. We took a van, drove a little bit, then we got out and we walked all over, looking at all the haunted areas, the buildings and all this, doing EVP sessions. And then we came back to the saloon, and we wrapped it up. You know, he finished telling the history and stuff, the tour guide. So before we left, though, I wanted to get a picture of the front of the saloon because it has a big name on it. If you'll see the slideshow on top of this, on the online page here, part of it is the Pioneer Saloon where I took that picture, and it has the big name. I said, well, I'm going to get my picture because I might not come back. I mean, I don't know, it's kind of far out by myself. So I took a picture. I took 3 pictures, one behind each other. And the first picture, I think, has nothing in it. It was just a regular picture. But it was crooked. It was like, well, I'm going to take another one. So I took a second one. That was a little better. I mean, more straight and more clear. Then I took another one, and it came out real blurry because I guess I was shaking the camera or something. So I didn't even think about it. Well, at least I got one picture with a name, a tourist picture, something. So I went home, and then I downloaded everything on my computer, and I didn't even notice the image until a few days later when I was just kind of looking through all my pictures, and I said, wait, something's there. What is that? It was like really see-through. So I zoomed in on it, and when I zoomed in on it, and that's when I found there was a man walking into the saloon door, but he was really see-through, and he was walking really fast. He had this big long stride, like he was running or something, or trying to get in there, but without actually going in the door yet. And he was see-through, and it was really strange. So I thought, wow, what the heck is that? So I sent a copy to Noel, the owner. He didn't know me at the time. I sent it through email, and he later on said that he put a copy of it in the saloon, and he asked everybody if they can identify this man. And everybody said no, and he said I freaked everybody out, the employees in the bar, because nobody likes to talk about the ghosts because they have to work there. Yeah. So he was showing it around to the bartenders and everybody, and they were like, that's a ghost. Like, I don't want to see that because they got to work there and close at night and stuff. And he thought it was funny, actually. He said, I got to freak everybody out. Like, put this up there, So he took it down, but he said there's nobody can identify the man. They never seen him before. They obviously a lot more residents who are out there in Sandy Valley or Goodsprings. They said they don't know who he is. So he says he did some research, and the hat, it looks like a baseball hat or something, but to him, he says it looks like a miner's hat. So the only thing he could find was the Argentine Mining Company, which used to be out in Goodsprings a long time ago, was the first ones to actually use the yellow colored hats, like they have the hard hats and stuff. And that was, he says that's the only closest thing he could find to figuring out who the man was. So he really believes that was a miner or one of the miners coming in for a drink. And then I sent this picture to Ben Hansen, the Fact or Faked TV show, through a message on Facebook, and he took it and he got back with me. He says he thinks he can explain it, but the only thing he couldn't explain was why the image of the man was not blurry. It didn't have any blur motion, like when you're running through a scene, you get blurry, and you can do the same thing. But he said the man was not blurry. There was no motion, anything. But the way how long his stride was, you would think he would be blurry. So that was so that's the only thing odd. And even to this day, that was taken in 2012, October of 2012, and still nobody has identified the man. So I'm not sure, and I'm pretty sure, according to everyone, that it is a spirit in that picture. And like Dennis was saying, that is in one of my books. Actually, it's in, I think, 2 of them. The first 2 I had. The one that's blue covered is True Ghost Experiences, and the other, Unexplained, is when I had all the stories about the Pioneer Saloon and things like that. And I had the picture in there, which you can find on Amazon.com if you're interested. All 3 books are on there to get a little plug in for my books. And then Dennis got dropped for a minute, but he's back now. Can you hear me, Dennis?
Connection, something happened.
Oh.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, he's back, but we got like 10 minutes left. So I guess we just keep talking because I don't see any other callers. If you're listening, you can call in for any questions, or you want to talk to us or anything about the Pioneer Saloon or anything. I have one question for Dennis, though. What piece of equipment do you like the best? I mean, do you like the spirit box, or do you like the flare camera, or any of the other stuff that we have, K2 meters? Or?
Well, I've been kind of like hooked on my IR camera, infrared camera. I use a lot, which, you know, I catch a lot of things on that, and you know, if it's EVPs or just orbs or something, I like that one. Recording, I think the recorder is just good, but you use that anyways, because what Linda specializes in is photography. She takes the pictures and works the EVPs and the voice box. And,
Yeah.
I usually do the camera work, the videos and the every other little thing. She does editing, and she's very good at editing. Things like that. So there's only so much I could do with 2 hands, so I like to stick with the camera, the video camera.
Yeah. So that's why we have like tripods, and we bring all this other stuff, so we don't have to have like all kinds of our devices on us. We just leave them there.
I got like 2 or 3 video cameras, and we just set it. Depends on the size of the room or the place, and I'll set them up different places, and then if I free my hands up, then I'll work the EMF reader.
Yeah. Yeah, we multitask. And I think pretty sure other paranormal teams do the same thing. We all multitask when we're doing investigations anywhere. Yeah, because I really don't really specialize in anything. I'm not a professional anything, photographer or anything. I'm probably like most of everybody.
Tens of thousands.
You had tens of thousands of pictures. So, yeah. Do you have any other stories? Any experiences you've had in the saloon dealing with the paranormal?
No, just not really that I can remember. Nothing really big. You know, I heard sounds and cars at the saloon.
Probably because you don't go there as much as I do.
Yeah, I only did it myself actually, with us 3 times. And
yeah.
then, I've been there a couple of times with your group. And
yeah,
then,
during the haunted lockdown.
Yeah, as far as lockdown. And then I've been there for just to visit, to have lunch, or just to social meetings we used to have.
Yeah, that's a daytime though. Usually not at night.
Well, the social where it was at night, but now that's when the sun went down early.
Yeah.
All the sun's later.
Huh.
But yeah, that's it. We
Yeah,
plan on going to a few more places in the future.
Yeah, in the near future. I might have a show on one of them. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe my last show. I don't know. the one other time that I had a wild experience out there was, I think it was like the second, third haunted lockdown that I did. I had was with my friend from work. Her name is Tammy, and we were about to leave. It was over and done. We were sitting here truck because she drove, and she was getting her seatbelt on, all this, and I was just sitting there waiting in the running truck, and I was looking forward towards the saloon. They have like these windows in the bar. Every so often you see like a window, and this one window though you can actually look in and look straight onto the bar. But because we're outside, we're far away, I couldn't see inside too well. But suddenly I saw this young man walking in front of this window, and he was holding his right arm with his left, and he was kind of running really fast, or moving really fast, walking. And he went right in front of the window, past it, and kept going. And I thought, wow, maybe one of Noel's workers got injured or something. Maybe he hurt himself. Maybe he was cleaning the place up afterwards. And so I was texting Noel. He was still in the cafe with his friend, Robert. And I say, hey, one of your workers got hurt. You better go check him. I think he's coming your way. He's coming towards there. And Noel was like, no, we have no workers in there. I was the last one out. I locked the door. I said, oh, but I'll go check, I'll make sure. So I see him going out to the patio towards the saloon, and he opens the door and everything. I could see him walking around a little bit inside. And he walked all over, and he came out, and he came outside to the truck, and he was there's nobody in there, Linda. He goes, whoa, I think you saw a ghost, an apparition. Like, I said, what? And he started telling me, asked me what did he look like, and I described him. He was a young guy, maybe mid-20s or something. He had a really short, kind of brownish hair, really short cut, almost like military, but not really buzz cut. It was just short. And then he had like a polo, real thin blue polo shirt. It was kind of faded color, but the whole man was kind of faded, really, after I thought about it. He was holding his right arm, and he literally wasn't hurt, and he was going towards Noel and them, or towards the cafe side. And he had some eyeglasses on and stuff. And he says, I don't know anybody like that, That sounds like a newer one, but not now. It sounds like in the 90s or something, because the way his shirt, it was like one of them polo shirts from the 90s or something. So he goes, this is, I think you saw a ghost, Linda. I was like, what? I was like, But I think that was the only time that I've ever seen a full-on apparition out there in the 3 years that I've been going there. And that was just totally out of the blue, random. I wasn't even expecting it. We were done, and I was just ready to leave. And then he sort of walked in front of me inside the saloon. Wow. He wasn't outside. But I never saw him again, so that was wild.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder why sometimes you see them, and that's it.
Excuse me.
A lot of times the people see the apparition, but they just one time, and then they disappear and never see them again.
I don't know. Sometimes I think that they really don't want us to see them. It just sort of happen to see them, and you're lucky or whatever, unlucky, you catch them as they're going somewhere. Then that's why they always they're in a hurry. I mean, to me, they're like, oh, somebody sees us, get out of the way. You're not supposed to let people see us, and they're like, ooh, get out of the way. Like that guy I saw at the saloon. Yeah. He was moving really fast.
We're not supposed to see them. They always. I've heard that a few times. They're not. They can't see us.
Just like the shadow figure, he was asking you, "Can you see me?" Because you were trying to touch it.
Well, I mean, the apparitions, the other people, like if you see the whole body, like those kind of apparitions, they're not supposed to see it.
Or we're not supposed to communicate with them. My friend said that has something to do with religion, the religion belief, Catholics, Christians, and things like this. You're not supposed to acknowledge them, or it's not good. And even when you die, they say when you go to the other side or whatever, into the light, they have rules, and you have to follow. And part of the rule is you're not supposed to communicate with the living, or but the ones who do are kind of stuck. My personal belief is I don't think they're really stuck, like in glue or something, or whatever. I'm thinking they have a choice, to go wherever they want to, but they just choose to stay with whoever or wherever they want. I mean, it's not like they're chained to a certain place because they don't have no bodies. It's just the energy. So
they don't want to go. They don't want to move on. They just want to stay here.
Yeah, they just want to stay. So I mean, that's my own personal belief. I mean, nothing to do with, religion aside and stuff. But religious belief, I think, is that they're not supposed to communicate with us. There's supposed to be like a wall there. You're not supposed to cross. You get, like, in quotes, punished or something, or or something. I don't know.
I'll probably next time I start investigating, I'm going to start asking them about that. See if I get anything. See if they come up with the answer for me.
I don't know. Okay, well, we're almost coming to the end of the show. We got like 1 minute left. There's a link in the page description, the www.hauntedlockdown.com, if you're interested in the lockdowns or finding out more about it. And then you can see all the videos on my YouTube channel, which is under Little Chib 100, LILCHIB 100. And if you just put a search in there, you can find all the videos I've done for the Pioneer and us and all that. I'd like to thank Dennis for being a special co-host today with me on the show.
Thank you.
Thanks. And I got 10 seconds left. I'm counting down myself. So if you're ever interested, you might see me at the Pioneer Saloon. And good night, folks. Have a great night. Thanks for listening.
Good night.
Bye-bye.